Are you guys sick of the Reaper decks running around and winning so many recent tournaments? Well, I am too, and I got the perfect deck for all of you to counter it, but it can also fend against most of the meta decks in the BT9 format as well. And of course, we got the no other than BlackWarGreymon, as it is making a huge comeback with its so-called X Antibody version, where we have Gaiomon. Just before we get started with the video, I got something really cool to share with all of you guys. If you haven't watched our newest Battle of series with Mario, then be sure to check that out as well. In our latest Battle of X Record series, you will get to see me play the Alphamon X Antibody Deck, putting it in action, and playing against Mario's Red X Antibody Omnimon Deck. Come watch the epic clash of the Royal Knights to find out who comes out on top. Links will be left in the description box down below or the iCard on the top right here. But there is actually one more thing, which Mario actually wanted to tell you guys, and it's actually really important, so pay close attention.
You know what's really absurd? The fact that only around 50% of you are subscribed to my channel. Like, why? Why?
You know what's even more absurd? 70% of you guys who are watching right now are not even subscribed to my channel. You tell them, Mario.
Do you guys not know what the subscribe button is? You should consider reading a book so you know what the subscribe button looks like and just click it. Okay?
Yeah, click it.
Hello Digimon players and fans, welcome back to another Digimon Deck Profile and in-depth building guide video. Now I know that I have mentioned a lot of different favorite Digimons that I have through across my many different videos, but I assure you guys, BlackWarGreymon is 100% my top #1 spot. I even have a model kit of this guy to prove to you guys that this isn't a joke this time and things are only going to get serious from on here. And yes, this is not a clickbait, we actually managed to come first place at our local tournament with this exact build. I will post the matchups and a short report in the comments down below so you guys can read and learn how I was able to beat those matchups. Aside from Gaiomon and the new Greymon X line, there isn't all that much new support for BlackWarGreymon in particular. But the meta has fundamentally changed quite a bit since BT8, which definitely calls for an update. BlackWarGreymon is still the king of control style, and with the introduction of Gaiomon, the deck can actually do even more cooler things in being more aggressive and control boards even more. Since I mentioned that the deck is actually more control based, there isn't really some fancy OTK combo that this deck really does. More so, you actually want to just control the board, take down your opponent's Digimon and their tamers bit by bit, and then slowly chip them away and then go for a game. That's really the win condition. Now there's also one really important note that I need to mention here as well. Unlike most other X Antibody decks, you actually don't want to be digivolving your BlackWarGreymon into Gaiomon as often as you think. I will explain it more in detail when we get to the how to play and combo segment of the video, so definitely stick around. But that's it for the introduction, and let's start off with the deck profile. Digi8 cards, of course we have the brand new BT9 Koromon. Once again, DP is just incredibly important in this current format. We need the extra DP so then we can ensure we swing over Digimon, but also mainly we don't get deleted in security battles. And prioritizing DP is really what this is all about, so the 4 Koromons for consistency is really all we need. That's it for Digi8 cards. Let's get into our rookies, and first up we have the promo Agumon right here. Just like I was talking about how important having DP really is, this Agumon gives us our turn 2000 extra DP, which is really good as long as it's Greymon, and that's really all it's there about, to help us buff up even stronger with our top end board. Now let's talk about some of our Searcher Agumons. We have the 4 BT5 Agumons and also the 2 BT8 Black Agumons. The BT5 can grab us 2 hits, 1 Greymon and 1 Omnimon, which is very nice, revealing the top 3, and then the other Black Agumon revealing top 4. We can add a Greymon and a Dragonkin. This card has been a little bit better in this format simply because of the addition of Gaiomon. Gaiomon is also a Dragonkin and a Greymon itself, so you can increase your hit rates a little bit higher, but still 2 copies is really all I really need to play for the black version. And then, to finalize up with all of our rookies and Agumons, we have 4 more of the X Antibody Agumon, once again facilitate even more searching, grabbing ourselves more Greymons or Omnimons and a X Antibody option card to our hand. Just so you guys know, we don't play that option. There's no need to play that option in this deck. Therefore, I didn't include it. However, it's also still really nice if you can Digivolve on top of an Agumon in the battle area to draw yourself one card and cycle through 3 cards to go for even more searching. And that's why this card is just really, really good. And also very versatile if you want to build a bigger stack as well. That's it for the rookies. Let's talk about our Greymons. We have 3 copies of the starter deck Greymon. You guys know in all my red-based decks, I try to include as many copies of this guy as possible simply because I love the aggression, security +1 to deal as much damage, and we can go for a lot of aggressive plays to win game sooner, and that's how I like to play. We also have 3 copies of the BT8 BlackGreymon. Giving our top end blocker is always very, very nice and always very good to give us more control aspect in the deck is what we're looking for. And then to round off, we have 2 of the BT5 Greymon. This one is also really good, giving us extra DP with its inheritable is what we mainly want to play it for, but also letting us Digivolve in the battle area and gaining 1 memory back as long as there's an Agumon underneath the sources is just really good. Very nice combo with Nokia because we can then go for 0 and draw more cards and find more pieces that we need. So that's the regular Greymon lineup here. And then we have the 4 Greymon X Antibodies. Great for building stack and raising, draw more cards while digivolving, but also mainly we play for its inheritable to give us the protection we need for our top end board. And it's just really, really good of a card. And yeah, that's it for all of our level 4 Greymons. Let's talk about level 5s where we only have Metal Greymons. 4 copies of this black and red Metal Greymon. Just a really good card because we can de-Digivolve one of our opponent's Digimon and then delete something with 3000 DP or less, giving us a really good control aspect is what we're really there for. And this card is exceptionally good at dealing with a level 4 that our opponent has floating on board with a rookie underneath it as well. So we can just instantly get rid of it, which is really, really nice. Not only that, it's inheritable. It's just really fantastic because when we have a Dragonkin or Machine as traits, we can attack unsuspended stuff. Mother D Reaper being a huge problem in this format, this is the epic hard counter to Mother D Reaper because we can swing over Mother with this. But not only that, generally being able to swing over stuff that is unsuspended just makes it very difficult for our opponent to play around in general as well. Then I have 2 WarGreymon Alterous modes. This one's the promo one. Very nice because you can Digivolve for 0 on top of Metal Greymon. Itself is also still treated as a Metal Greymon, and when Digivolving, if you have Tamer in play, you can pop something that's 5000 DP or less on your opponent's side of the board. Once again, we also play for its inheritable, which is exactly the same as the Greymon X Antibody to facilitate even more protection in our top end, which is always very nice. And then to top it all off, we do have the 2 copies of the Metal Greymon X Antibody, allowing us to Digivolve for 0 on top of a Metal Greymon, giving us the aggression when we get extra security +1 for the turn and extra 3000 DP as long as there is a Metal Greymon. So that's how we always want to be comboing and having the Metal Greymon X Antibody Digivolving on top of a Metal Greymon 99% of the time. But that's it for the Metal Greymon and level 5 lineup. Now let's talk about our level 6s, and of course we have our BlackWarGreymon. He is your control king, and I play 3 copies of this guy. He is great for taking out tamers, taking out wide boards, and controlling once you build a very nice stack in terms of also the reason why it's so good at controlling the board is because all turns once per turn, if an opponent's Digimon is deleted, you get to unsuspend this Digimon, giving it its own kind of protection from battle, which is really great, but also a very strong powerhouse, comboing very nicely, especially with our BlackGreymon when we do have blocker, just so that our opponent cannot really swing into us and they have to be extra careful when they do so. Then for the brand new version edition of BlackWarGreymon, we have his X Antibody version, but I don't like to call him the X Antibody version because I would rather call this Samurai BlackWarGreymon, Samudramon in Japanese, also Gaiomon here. First of all, he does a lot of things because he can Digivolve on top of a BlackWarGreymon. This card and Digimon is still treated as having Greymon in its name, giving you the searching capability, which is very nice. Lots of really nice effects. Security +1 and reboot. Also, when Digivolving, if you have a black source underneath, you can de-Digivolve one of your opponent's Digimon. And if you have red, it has Blitz. Now, a very important thing to keep in mind is that Gaiomon actually doesn't synergize as well with BlackWarGreymon. And some of you guys might be very confused because in a lot of decks that we're currently playing, we always want to go into our X Antibody level 6 on top of our regular level 6. However, I will showcase you guys in the combo segment or sort of like a how to play guide towards the end to explain why Gaiomon and BlackWarGreymon should be played separately. And only very specific scenarios you will only Digivolve Gaiomon on top of BlackWarGreymon. And that's sort of how I like to play, but definitely stay tuned for that. But that's Gaiomon right there. Last but not least, to round off for all of our Digimon, we have one level 7, we have the Blitz Omni for game. Just a very nice to have when we do need a push for that game, and then we need to go and suspend and swing that extra check to finish the game. And yeah, that's really it why he's there, and just one copy is good enough. That's it for all of the Digimon. Let's talk about Tamers. We have 3 copies of Nokia. Nokia is just great in giving you value to hard play your Agumons for free. And then you can also do the searching with it, which is very, very nice. Not only that, you can reduce the Digivolution costs when you're trying to build up your stack as you go in the battle area, which is really why you want to have 3 of Nokias. Sometimes I wish I have 4, but 3 is in this current build is really just good enough for now. And we see her consistently enough too. Then we still have Tamers. We got 2 red Tamers. We got the red Tai Kamiya and 1 Hero. So mainly this is our red tamer, but also both these guys are our memory tamer. Tai being the aggressive version, giving us security +1 to our red Digimon with 4 more Digivolution sources. Hero giving us more attacking power when we need to swing over stuff or swing into security safely. And that's really all there is. Originally, I would like to say that I would rather play 3 Tais instead for extra aggression, but in this current build and the playstyle of this deck, sometimes the DP just really comes up and it's just really, really important. So I'm just currently playtesting this ratio and it's been working out quite fairly nicely for me at the moment. That's it for Tamers. Let's round off for the options. 2 red memory boosts. I do want to add 1 more in. It's kind of hard to add 3 because searching is just really great. Giving you extra memory to make more plays is just very, very crucial. But I do want to save my 1 last option spot for a delicate plan right here because we do face against security heavy bombs sometimes, and I do like having the contingency of having ADP in our hands so that we can stop any of those security bombs from coming out. Despite having the protection from Greymon X and also Metal Greymon Ultras mode, we're not fully covered and fully protected, and so having this as a reserve is always very nice. But if you guys don't really like that, I think you can take this out and play 3 red memory boosts instead. So that's it for our 50 card main deck here. There are several other really, really good cards that I would consider adding when building this deck. However, I don't really want to diverge away from my consistency playstyle as much, which is why I don't include these cards, but these cards are definitely cards you have to consider. The first one is this brand new promo, Deltamon. When this Digimon would Digivolve into a card with 2 colors or composite in its trace, you can reduce the Digivolution cost by 2, meaning you can go up to your Metal Greymon for 2 costs only, which is fantastic. Also, it has a when attacking, which is not once per turn. For each of these Digimon colors, you can delete one of your opponent's Digimon with 3000 DP or less. Once again, I did talk about how big Mother D Reaper currently is, and this is the perfect deck to counter Mother D Reaper. And if you really want to counter Mother D Reaper that hard, then Deltamon, at least a 2 of, is actually a very nice inclusion. Another dual color Digimon we got right here from BT9, we have Megadramon. When Digivolving, you delete one of your opponent's Digimon or Tamer with a play cost 3 or less. Its inheritable is exactly the same as it's when Digivolving, but it's when attacking. As long as you have a machine or dragonkin in its traits, you can then delete one of your opponent's Tamers or Digimon with 3 costs or less as well. In this current format, there's a lot of cool boys running around, and this card is a perfect answer to take down those cool boys when your opponents are trying to set up, or even analog use, which you do see every now and then in Beostar decks. So these are the first 2 considerations that you definitely want to be thinking of when building BlackWarGreymon. Then I also have one more sort of like a tech option a little bit here, which is the default Metal Greymon from EX1. The main reason of considering this card is not really because of its when attacking effect, but more so of its inheritable because it gives piercing. I love it so much when there's an opportunity to swing over one of our opponent's suspended Digimon with our BlackWarGreymon or Gaiomon and deal piercing damage at the same time. And I really feel like it gives us the best value when we do achieve that. Then we have 1 BT1 WarGreymon. This is also a very, very nice consideration. Instead, if you don't want to play Delicate Plan, if you want to bump up your level 6 counts, this is a very nice, aggressive early game Digimon that can really help you gain more security checks, swing for more damage, and then no options allowed as well, which is really, really good. Last but not least, we do have 1 Omnimon X Antibody. This is a control-based deck, and it does make a lot of sense to have the Omnimon X Antibody. Sometimes this card itself can stop an entire opponent's turn of making their OTK combo, because you Digivolve on top of Omnimon for 3, but Digivolving for 6 on top of a red is totally okay as well, because we can just stop attacks, which is very, very nice. It makes it hard for an opponent to decide and commit to push out with their combos. And yeah, this is why this card is making a comeback, and it's very nice to have as a one-of. Okay, so that wraps up for all the cards that we want to talk about and showcase you guys. And let's move into sort of the how to play combo section. Now, first and foremost, because of this is a BlackWarGreymon deck, it's a very control-based type of deck where there isn't really like a go-to OTK combo unlike all the other decks. But the playstyle of this is really where the control thrives and best. So what you really want to be doing is in the early stages of the game, play your Nokias if you have, so that you can hard play your Agumons to do your searching, find your pieces. You can play the black one as well to continue to find more pieces. Digivolve your X Antibody there on top to draw and cycle again to find more pieces. That's really what you're aiming to do. Now, while you're doing that, let's talk about the BlackWarGreymon combo first. And if you guys remember, I mentioned earlier that the BlackWarGreymon playstyle actually wants to be differentiated with the Gaiomon, meaning that you actually want to be digivolving them separately and not on top of each other. What I mean by this is what I'll show you guys. You of course want to hatch your egg. You want to digivolve ideally your Agumon that gives extra 2000 DP, and then sometimes if you can or if you want to, you can definitely digivolve an Agumon X inside the raising as well. And let's talk about the BlackWarGreymon combo first, where you digivolve the BlackGreymon ideally there. Then you go on to the X Antibody version for 0, which is very nice. So once you have your level 4, this is where you want to sit and wait a little bit, because your main control combo and the best value really comes from your BlackWarGreymon. Identify your matchup and sort of see what your opponent is playing. Knowing your matchup knowledge is really important for control-based decks, because you really need to know what your opponent is trying to do and if they can get into the situations that you want them to get into. Here's why. So if your opponent doesn't have a level 4, or a level 3, or whatever, your BlackWarGreymon is not going to have that much value. You know, you might be sitting and raising, trying to wait for them to bring one, then there's no need. Might as well just digivolve in the raising instead and then continue building. If they do, this is when you want to move out. This is when you move out in the battle area, and one memory is really ideally all you need. In the early stages of the game, you can control the board way faster than your opponent, so they can't just go into their OTK wombo combo against you just quite yet. But once again, depending on the matchup, make sure that you know what you're doing. So you will suspend your Nokia so then you can digivolve into your BlackWarGreymon for 3 costs instead, passing to your opponent to 2, de-digivolving something, and then deleting something as well. Right now, it's not too bad having a level 5 sit in the battle area, because you do at least have protection with your Greymon X Antibody, which is very nice. Your opponent will do their thing and try to pass you your memory back. Now, let's just say once again, you're back at 1. You don't really necessarily need to require a memory tamer for these control combos. You can always play no matter what. If your opponent has more stuff on the board, play the BlackWarGreymon Ultras mode, so you can delete more things. If not, then you can actually just straight up go into a BlackWarGreymon and then pop their tamers. You always want to see and identify that situation there. So if they do have tamers, that's when your BlackWarGreymon comes in the most value and handy. Now, however, if they don't, this is when you want to go into your Gaiomon combo instead. Now, the Gaiomon combo does require a little bit more steps, because, once again, if you have something to pop, go for it with the BlackWarGreymon Ultras mode. If not, you want to have to be seeing this BlackWarGreymon X Antibody instead. Digivolve it on top for 0, so then you can draw extra security +1 and extra 3000 DP for the turn. And then instead of going into BlackWarGreymon, you go straight into Gaiomon here. You suspend Nokia to reduce the cost, so then you put your opponent's memory to 3, and then your Gaiomon will have Blitz. Now, because you also have a black source and a red source, you get to de-digivolve 1 and Blitz for the attack, and then you can do security +1. Don't forget, you also get a security +1 from the BlackWarGreymon X Antibody prior, so that's 2, 3 checks and 1 go for 13, as well as plussing 2 and 1, so that's 16k for 3 checks, which is a very nice early stage combo. You guys can see why that's why you don't want to be digivolving BlackWarGreymon first and then digivolving into Gaiomon. Now, Gaiomon is really nice because it combos with this stack very nicely, because you can reboot, and now it will also have blocker. It can swing over things as well, which is fantastic. In other situations, you may not have this BlackWarGreymon for blocker, then having this extra Greymon right here for extra security checks, just as good too. So another very important reason why I want to showcase that you don't want to digivolve BlackWarGreymon into Gaiomon is because BlackWarGreymon does have its all turns once per turn effect to unsuspend, and digivolving your Gaiomon on top of it gives up your BlackWarGreymon's control capabilities, right? Because you have BlackWarGreymon, you can have a blocker right here sitting there and controlling the board very nicely. So what you want to be doing on the side is you want to go building into your second stack here instead. You want to digivolve into your Greymon, go into an X Antibody Greymon as well if you can, and then continuing, and if you want, control the board once again with Metal Greymon here with the black and red one, go into outermost mode if you need to, and then you go into Gaiomon here on a different stack so that you can get the best of both worlds here and not have to lose your BlackWarGreymon. Now, I did mention there is a very particular scenario where there's a few conditions where you do want to go into your Gaiomon on top of your BlackWarGreymon. First is if your opponent has a Digimon that you really need to deal with, and de-digivolving it will help. Now, that will then work very nicely, because then you can again suspend your Nokia, go to 0, and then you can go on top of Gaiomon for 1. First of all, you would de-digivolve their Digimon so that you can potentially swing over it very easily, and then you can use the Gaiomon to swing over it. And even if your memory does pass your opponent, you have Blitz, and they can use the Metal Greymon to even swing over it and unsuspend it, which is why it's really good in that particular scenario. But once again, keep in mind, once you've done this, you lose your BlackWarGreymon value there. So maybe on the side sometimes, if you do want to go for that big play, go for it. So then make sure you can also go back into another BlackWarGreymon because you want to have that blocker and control style just in case. Now that with both on the board like this, you guys can see why it's so good. And then once again, having these two on the board, you can really juggle nicely with different advantages and different effects together, which is even better. And the really cool thing about this deck is that it's not that slow. It's actually quite fast in building this control style that you need to get into this board state, which is always very nice. And from there, you just want to take advantage of the board state, control your opponent's side of the board as much as you can while you chip them down slowly bit by bit, and then you go for the game right there. And this is why this deck is actually really fun. It makes you think about really important decisions that you have to make during the game states and identifying and knowing your matchups once again. That will conclude for my very own deck building guide and strategy for the BlackWarGreymon and Gaiomon deck profile. If you guys enjoyed the video and found it helpful, please give it a like. If you have any suggestions, recommendations, or questions, be sure to share it with everyone in the comments down below. Overall, BlackWarGreymon has a very different style of play compared to all the OTK decks in the format. Surprisingly, it can put many of those decks in check and slow them down, which is why it's really fun to play. There's so many different iterations and takes and different cards you can add in to counter various different matchups that you want to do. So I highly recommend you guys to try different builds with different cards to find what suits you the most. I just really hope that one day we'll actually get the proper BlackWarGreymon X Antibody, and then my dreams will be fulfilled. If you guys feel the same way, then be sure to subscribe and turn on that notification bell right now to stay tuned and hope for it to come in one of those days. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great day, great night, wherever you are. See you in the next video. This is Avault, signing out.